Welcome back to the Life Legacy Podcast. And as always, we bring on phenomenal, well rounded leaders. And today, this is a well rounded leader that I am not too familiar with. And from what I've seen and what people have talked about yourself, it's very impressive. And this is someone that has built a bunch of businesses and is going to bring a lot of value to the table and seems like an extremely well-rounded leader. And so today I get to bring on Cam Bawden, and it's an honor to have you.
What's up, man? I just noticed the tissue boxes. You must be a great, host, because if you get me to cry, that'll be next level.
Well, we'll see. It happens on occasion. But for our audience that doesn't know you, like what fires you up? What do you care about?
Yeah, so I love business. It was from a young age. We didn't grow up poor, but we didn't grow up ultra successful, and it just made me want to, I knew the things that I wanted. I wanted the Lamborghini, I wanted the big house, I wanted the cars and the jets and the helicopters. And so from an early age, I just had this belief factor that it was possible. Mm-hmm. And we can get into that more, but what's kind of interesting about me is that I wasn't the greatest student because I didn't learn how to educate myself in a classroom setting, but I'm a great student in life when it comes to mimicking people. And so all my success is attributed to being around the right people and just duplicating what they have to offer. And I think that's my story is that, hey, if you can be intentional with what you want in life and then you can go execute, as long as you're a hard worker, anything's possible. And so when I think about what I've been able to accomplish from a successful business standpoint, I know that it's possible for anyone because all I did was duplicate things that other people told me to do and work hard. And so it's been a fun journey. And of course, family's huge for me. I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and they're everything. And so I've been lucky with a great spouse. My wife's name is Alyssa, and there's just a high level of respect. And when you think about what makes a successful person, it's the support system at home. And so, I know we were talking about you getting married this year. There's just, when you have the right person next to you, it really makes a huge difference. Yeah. And I've had all those things. And so I feel like I'm the most blessed person ever. And I'm just living the best life right now and enjoying it and feel really lucky.
That's amazing, man. To your comment about me getting married this year, I think this year I'm going to be more intentional about dating, and we'll see what happens. So with that belief system, I feel like we unintentionally put these ceilings of belief system, and it sounds like that's been instilled or you've had that in you from a younger time. How do you feel like that came to be?
Well, again, I tell the story about my buddy Rob Horn. He was my first friend around me that made $1 million. And I love Rob, and no offense to Rob, he's not that special. He's just an everyday guy that worked hard. And when you think I think that's one of the things that we need the most. And that's what I'm creating inside my community is that, hey, if Cameron can do it, anyone can do it. What are the little things that he did in order to be successful? And so my buddy Rob instilled that belief system in me from an early age. And it was just, it gets you through life knowing hey, it's possible. And so when you look at business and you look at, what's needed, a lot of it is just perseverance. A lot of people hit those roadblocks and they look at them as roadblocks. I teach people it needs to be looked at as a detour. And the only way to get through it is having someone that believes in you. And that's where the spouse comes into play, or a best friend saying, hey, bro, that's really not a big deal, right? let me help you around it.
What were a couple of your initial big obstacles that you had to confront and figure out, maybe a couple of your giant first push throughs that, you thought inside yourself it's impossible and someone showed up for you?
Yeah, I've had a lot of different mentors, but there's a couple critical times in my life where just pushing through made all the difference. And that was year 3 of Green Mango. So Green Mango was our pest control business, and we were about 3 years in, and I'll never forget the experience. I was in Maricopa, which is kind of the armpit of Arizona. It's just lower income housing, and it's in the middle of kind of nowhere, and no one has their backyards they don't have landscaping in their backyard because they really can't afford it. But it's a great area because you can just switch over accounts. No one's loyal. And so we were out there a lot. But it's 120 degrees outside and I'm in the backyard. And most people in Maricopa have like a huge dog, like a German Shepherd or a pit bull, and they don't clean up their dog poop. And so when you're servicing that, like it's just dirt and poop everywhere. And then you put product on top of it. It just has this musty smell. I'm on the three-way call with my dad and my business partner. And my dad was an investor with us. And we're spraying this backyard and it's 120. I'm allergic to the chemicals that we put down. And it's just all the things like, and I remember telling my dad, hey, if someone will give us $250,000 for this company, we're going to take it because I don't know how you make money at pest control. And that was me kind of letting my dad down, but also telling him like, hey, you've invested 250 grand. I'm not going to let you down. Like I'm going to get at least that money back. And I don't know what I'm going to do with my life that year. Like I was expecting my little boy to be born, like he was due a couple months after that. And so it was just a really hard time. And the only thing that we had to do was keep showing up. And luckily nobody wanted to buy green mango for 250 grand. And so we just kept showing up and kept, staying consistent with what we felt like we needed to do. And a couple years later was like the first time that we took income from green mango. It took 6 years to make any money. And then we thought we were on
Right
top of the
there.
world.
That's a phrase that I feel like people can't comprehend very well, especially in the startup world. Is like it took you 6 years.
Yeah.
Like 6 years without income feels like an extremely long time.
Yeah.
And so it's so special that you were able to push through that.
Yeah, and like I got married the same year that we started Green Mango, and so my wife helped us pay the bills those first 6 years, and I was able to. I went on a church mission, and one of the incentives that my dad gave me was like, "Hey, if you go on a mission, I'll buy you a truck." And I was like, "Okay," like I kind of needed that push. And I got home, and he was like, "Okay, the nicest truck right now is 50 grand." You can have 50 grand, or your brother-in-law is buying houses in Phoenix for like 20 grand. And luckily I was smart enough to say, okay, I'm going to take that money and go buy 2 houses. And it paid me like $2,500 a month. And so between Lissa dancing and that $2,500 a month, we lived off of, whatever it was, $3,500, 4 grand. And that's how we were able to like keep doubling down on Green Mango and not take any money. And so, yeah, like six years, we start making 60 grand, and between 6 and 8, like we got all the way up to, I think it was almost $1 million. And it was like, oh man, I'm the king. And customers were starting to roll in like crazy. And we got confident and we were like, hey, let's go start 5 other service companies. And
Gosh,
like we started 5 companies in the span of about 18 months. And we went and raised money through an investor. And about 8 months in with this investor, we went to a meeting one day and he was just like, hey, I'm out. And that was like the second time in my life where the confidence was up here. And then it was quickly like taken down because he gave me a lot of validation. I've had a lot of self-doubt in my life of like, am I worthy of this? Should I? Because at the times, like if you don't go to school and college, you're not going to be successful. Like I run a service-based company. Like I have friends that are going to like be brain surgeons and accountants and all this stuff. And here I am like running a pest control business. And so but then when I was making $1 million and they're all making like 250 or still in residencies, I was like feeling all good.
yeah.
And then this investor gave me all this confidence of like validation, right? And then him saying I'm out was like, hey, you're not good enough to be my partner. And I remember I had a coach at the time and I called him and I'm literally crying on the phone because I was just like, dude, my life's over. We're $4 million in debt if he pulls out. I don't know how to pay it back. We've put all this energy into this company. Mm-hmm. And it was the time that he taught me this principle. He said, everything always works out. And I can't wait to show you that even this moment that you feel like your life is over, everything works out. And it turns out like as hard as it was, and it took me about 3 years to rebound from that. It's one of the greatest things that ever happened to me.
Why do you think it is one of the greatest things that ever happened to you? Because
I had to get better at business because I didn't have this investor just writing blank checks. We had to narrow down what's important. Where do I focus my time? We had to become better stewardships over our accounts, over our money itself. And it helped me really like build up who I was. And then I learned that principle that everything works out. And so whenever I go through something like extreme, not to say I don't get frustrated or concerned or all those things, but I just know in the back of my mind, like, no matter what it is, it doesn't matter. Like, everything always works out. It might not be how we want it. And you know, obviously, like, you're a huge faith guy, and knowing that, like, hey, God has a purpose for you. And I strongly believe that. We might not like it at the time. And I certainly didn't like that. But since then, like, I was able to recoup all the equity. I was able to pay him back. And like, I don't have an investor breathing down my back. And that's huge.
Yeah. It's it is interesting, like those harsh moments I feel like create the character of who you are more
Yeah.
than almost any other success that you can go through. And I do believe that, you know, those are typically moments where God shows up in some shape or form if we're willing to listen and be open.
Yeah.
But I've noticed at my lowest lows, I've felt God's presence in some shape or form, or He sends someone in the perfect time that I need. Like it sounds like you were probably proactive with your mentor, but it sounds like he also said the perfect words that helped you get to where you went after that. And
Right.
um, has there been a time where you've felt like God showed up in your life?
Yeah. There's some really cool moments, and that, like, even 9 months before I sold Green Mango for what I did, like, my bank account hit zero. And there's some really cool stories around, um, you know, around tithing around that point of like paying tithing,
Mm.
and whether it's tithing to your church or 10% or 5%, whatever it is, to like other businesses or charities, whatever it might be. Like, there's a lot of times where I just felt his presence there. And there's many times where like I just felt overwhelmed in business, and just like doubling down on prayers. And, for us, it's going to the temple or church, where I just felt like it was the only time I felt at peace. And I just know, and that's why I'm still so like crazy about my routines, and knowing that, like, hey, when I'm in this moment of doing the like weekly planning or church or family time, or allocating time for business, I know, like, I understand my happy place and like what keeps me alive, like,
Yeah.
pretty well. Like, Gandhi says, know thyself. And I've really learned that the past 6 years of like what really like makes me happy. And it's a combination of all those little things.
Um, what has been one of those tithing stories, if you don't mind sharing one?
um so about in 2022, my business partner, like, we've been running Green Mango for about 12 years at this point, and he was just kind of like, just kind of done, and I had more left in the tank. And so I went to him and was just like, hey man, I'd love if I can figure out like how to come up with the money. Can I buy you out? And like, long story short, we figured out this payment structure where I put down so many millions down for him, and then there was this 10-year balloon payment, and then I committed to 14% interest on that balloon payment. And the business could cash flow it as long as we like maintained or grew, right? But about like 8 months after I like made that agreement, like, it was tough times. But at the end of the year, I always pay my tithing. And those people that are listening, like, in our church, it's a commandment to pay 10% of your income. And no matter how much money you're making or not making, like, 10% kind of stinks. Whether you're making $1 million
It's
and
huge.
you pay 100 grand or 100,000, you're paying 10 grand, like, it kind of hurts. And I remember going through this stage where things are really tight and it's just difficult, but I made the decision. And it seems like I struggle with this every year, but I'm proud of myself that I do it. Paid the tithing, and within like 6 days, and you can call it coincidence or not, but within 6 days, like, I got another check for 80 grand, as like I overpaid in taxes. And I've never gotten a refund check in my life. And it was just like, where else could this have come from? And I just know, like, I've got like three examples like that. They're just stories where, like, wasn't gonna pay it, decided to pay it, and then like within 14 days, like, some check comes up, whether it's a rebate from our chemical distributor or like a tax refund or whatever. Like, it just comes around, and it like gives me that light again, or that breathing room. So
Yeah.
it's kind of cool.
I've I just think it's so special that um because I think tithing is such an interesting thing. If God is real and someone is giving up, one of the most valuable things here on earth. And it's someone that, has millions of dollars. But I also think of like the lady in Mexico that, if she pays her tithing, she will literally lose a meal. If God is real and loves his children, do you not think, even if she gave it to like, XYZ church or XYZ anything, but she gave it with the intent of paying it to God, that he is not going to come through on his side of the deal? And I just feel like sometimes we get wrapped up in, what that money can mean. But when you show God the value of your worth, of having him in your life and what you're willing to sacrifice, sometimes it's not monetary regain of that money. Like, he pays out in whatever ways, but I just find it so fascinating. And I've now heard so many blessings on tithing that it's a hard one to stomach, but I think it's one of the largest payouts where God shows his hand in what he's
Yeah.
doing.
You know what got me this year is because like I really fought it again this year. Like every year, for whatever reason, it's hard for me, even though I've
It's
had all these experiences. But this year is like, hey, I'm still gonna donate 10%, but like I'm gonna kind of choose where I want to bring it, you know?
yeah.
And what's funny is like I actually ended up overpaying to like different things because at the end of the day, I'm like, nah, I still gotta give 10% to the church because I read this thing because I was reading all these conference talks and all these things. And the thing that got me was like, hey, if you had a business partner, like I did, and a lot of people do, if you cheated that business partner 10%, would he still be your business partner? Would he still show up? Would he still help out? Would he still be there for you? And the answer is no, of course, right? And so like if is God not the greatest business partner you have? And he's not asking for 50-50. He's not asking for 40. He's not asking for 30. Like it's 10%. So you're not going to give that your greatest business partner at least 10%. And it was just like a gut check for me again of just like, wow, like he is the greatest partner. And it wasn't so I can go make more money this year. It's just like it's a principle of obedience and knowing. And it's like, shame on me, I've had all these crazy cool experiences, but every year it's still difficult. But when you, at least for me, is like when you look at him as a business partner, like it was pretty cool.
Mm. I
So
like that a lot. I mean, I say on here all the time that God is like our ultimate board advisor. But honestly, business partner is better said because, you're working with him throughout it all. And sometimes the board advisor is a little more hands off.
yeah.
But in your world, what has been a couple of the more pivotal moments that you've experienced that really created who you are?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's a couple different moments that stand out. One of the things I'm really proud of is there's not one employee that can say like I cheated them of money because I've always erred on the side of paying more, even when it's like, hey, when there's gray area, which there's been a lot of gray area. When you have over 1,000 employees in 5 different companies, like there's always going to be gray area. And I've always erred on the side of like theirs to give them that. And I think there's a lot of ways for an employer to just kind of take advantage of employees and so it's revealed in that time where you have a choice like, hey, do I want to take advantage of these employees or do I not? And so like it's not like one specific moment, but like I hang my hat on that no one can say like I've stiffed them of money, and that means a lot to me. And then there's moments where I've just networked with the right people and I've showed up and got out of my comfort zone. And I think about, we were talking about Casey, and he does these trips, these golf trips. And I like about a year ago, right after I sold, I'll never forget, my buddy Jason calls me. He's like, hey, do you want to go on this golf trip with Casey? And my first thought was like, no, I just want to be with my family. Like I just sold my business. I don't really want to network right now. Like this is a year to chill, like I just want to be with my family. And for whatever reason, I ended up going, and I've probably made 3 or 4 really good friendships from that network, from that trip, that I was able to network. And just like this past year has been anything but chill. And it's been like great opportunities and other investments and meeting other people and connecting with them. And so it's been a lot of like putting myself in uncomfortable situations, which for me is actually getting out and like leaving town and taking time away from my family. But there's a lot of people out there that are shy and have those self-doubts about like what they are good at or not good at. And so you have a lot of introverts that don't want to go network and don't want to be around people. And my thing is like, hey, go put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, because that's where you'll have like a lot of growth and a lot of, you'll come out like on top. And even today, I'm like woke up this morning, I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm leaving my family and I got paid to come speak at this event, but it was like, what am I doing? And then I ended that talk today and we sat around for another 45. Like I was trying to walk out and almost everyone came up to me saying like, oh, this changed like this is going to change the game for me this year. And then it's like, dude, this is what it's about. And so it's addicting. And so it's finding that balance, in all things in life, whether it's business, family, hobbies, things like that.
What if, I mean, yeah, you've sold a bunch of companies, doing over, like 100 million in these sales. And like, what are the things that you were expecting to feel fulfilled from that didn't bring fulfillment?
Um, I mean, the day that I sold, you would think that like things would feel a lot like yeah. So like I worked my whole life trying to make a ton of money. And then one day it's like the money hits your account and nothing's different. And that's where like money won't build you happiness, won't help you be happy. And like it solves a lot of problems, but it also creates a lot of problems. But if you don't know like what makes you tick, and which we kind of talked about this a little bit already, like I understand I need to like do, for me in the morning, it's like an ice bath and sauna session is almost like critical for me. Like that's what sets my day off right. And then it's going to the gym. And my cadence now is like working 4 to 5 hours a day and then being with my family at night. If it's kind of outside of that, like it's like I just kind of off a little bit. But also like just knowing those things that makes me tick. And so a lot of people don't understand what are your sacred rhythms, and they just kind of go about life and let life happen to them. Where I can say with my life now, like I'm very intentional with what a perfect week looks like. Like that was one of the first things I did this year is I sent my assistant, this is a perfect week. A lot of people reach out and ask for 10, 15 minutes of time. And last year was, hey, fit them on as soon as you can. And like my weeks would just get blown up. And now it's like, hey, I only have Tuesdays and Thursdays for people that ask for this. And we have a rating system, 1, 2, or 3. And that tells my assistant, hey, like this is, if I'm booked out for 3 weeks, I don't want to fit it in any other time. From 10 to 11, like this is my sacred time. I don't want to have any meetings. I want to prepare for the day. And so it's just getting better and better about knowing like what makes you tick. And what I see with business owners is they just wake up and whatever fire comes, they put out. And so they can't get to where they want to go because they like life happens to them.
Mm. And so, take yourself back to your 20, 21-year-old self, and you're just trying to start businesses. And what would be some of the advice that you would tell yourself now?
2021. So we were about 11 years into Green Mango and I was starting to sell a lot of
Or like
companies.
you're 20 years old.
Oh, I'm 20 years
Yeah,
old.
yeah.
Dang, man. I would find the mentor that can help me get the lessons without the scars. And when I look at like the importance of delegation, especially when you're trying to build a business, like I stayed on the truck for 6 years. Like I was spraying routes for 6 years. I wish someone would have came in and been like, hey bro, like that's not where you can maximize your time to build your business. And so now with like YouTube, like it's popular for guys like me and other successful business owners to share like everything that they did to be successful. In 2010 to 2000, like even 18, 19, that wasn't popular. Everyone wanted to hold their cards to their chest. And so if I'm a guy right now that's starting like whatever industry it is, I'd go find the guy that's like producing content around what to do and just eat it up or join their community or do like whatever it is that I can spend time around them. Because if they can shave off a year of your life or increase your margins by 2-3%, like that compounds over time and that makes a big difference.
Definitely.
So
I feel like I'm still learning so much, and I I agree. Like the most pivotal things that I've learned in my life have typically been from people that have already made it in an area that I'm improving on.
yeah.
And it's been a big part of my journey, of that type of education that you're talking about, because you know I I feel young enough where it's like, hey, I want to be like this guy in 10, 20 years. I know the fastest track to getting there is having an actual conversation with that person and getting the blueprint of how they did it.
Yeah.
And it's altered my life in huge ways. But I mean, talking on that, like you have some mentorship, you're helping people. I know that's something that fulfills you. What's your group called, and what's like what's an expectation, or what
Yeah.
what do you help them with typically?
So everyone, I'm sure, no one's starting a community because they just want to rip people off. Like they feel like they have something of value, and I feel like I can help a lot of business owners like increase and get to their goals a lot faster than they could without me. And I think the reason why it's so special is because it's organically happened. Like I didn't sell green mango thinking like, oh, I'm going to get into mentorship. It's naturally happened. So it's called Height Farm, which has been our parent company of all of our service companies. And then it's the 1% Club. And the 1% Club is that less than 1% of companies make $10 million in revenue and are actually profitable. And so when you think about that stat, like it's almost overwhelming. I was with 30 people today. It's like there's only 3 people in this room that, like, there's not even 3 people. Like there's not even really one in this room that's going to beat this stat. And so like the whole goal is that I want to help people become the 1%. And I feel like that through the systems that I create, the KPIs that I teach, the auditing process, the delegation process, I can help people get there as long as they're willing to put in the work. And so where the 1% comes from is that saying, I was standing up the day that I sold Green Mango, there's 150 people in the room. And I'm sharing the stat that like we obtained the impossible as a group, and I wanted to cheer with them because it's a really big like moment, right? And so my wife threw this party like a couple of days after I sold, and she invited these people that had a high, like there was only probably 20 people there, but it was intentional of like people that actually made a difference. And she had these hats, and she put on there, I should have wore it today, but it said 1% Club. And I'm a huge hat guy. Like I'm always really wearing a hat besides it. If I could wear a hat to church, I would. And I was like, oh, these are cool, but it's a little bit too braggadocious for me. And so for like 2 months, I didn't wear that hat, but she printed like 30, right? So I had all these hats extra. And then as people were reaching out asking for help, I'm like, I got to create a community. Like I got to help people because they're asking. And so it originally started like, hey, I'm just going to do a once a month Zoom call. And it's a time to do what I just did. Like just whatever question you have, I'm going to answer for you, and it's going to be $2.99 a month because I want to weed out people that just are just asking questions and they're not doers. And it's all started from that. So originally it was like, hey, I want to get 30 people in this group and it'll be worth it for me to jump on this call. And we got 30 in like 2 weeks, and then it's grown to about 100 members now. And so like now I'm dropping a playbook every single month of what exactly I did to be successful in business, not just at Green Mango, but all the other ones. And most importantly, like I failed at some businesses too. And so it's like we talk about the failures as well. And then we're doing events because community is a big thing. We talked about the belief system. And so now you have all these people that are in the 1%. Some of them are doing 10 million, some of them are doing 15, some of them are doing 250 grand, but they can see guys like you and I are like, wow, like Cameron's not special and he did it, so I can do it. And so it's been going for about 8 months now, and it's just evolving to something like really special. And so I don't know where it's going to go, but like right now we're having fun helping people. And that's where I've started to agree to podcasts like this or speaking events, is because I just want to get the word out. I was like, hey, we're out here. I'm one of the guys that actually did it. There's a lot of mentors out there that just kind of talk about it, but they haven't accomplished much. And, I think we can help people. And so if I want to help people scale and sell their business if that's what they want to do. And even if they don't sell, like the systems and processes that I teach you will help you buy the freedom that you need in order to go on vacation with your family and not be glued to your phone.
Hmm.
So
That's powerful.
yeah,
And
man.
so you've been doing that for how long?
Like 8 months.
8 months. What have been, some of the more fulfilling things, or that you weren't expecting, that happened in these 8 months, that keeps you, fired up on that?
It's definitely pushed me out of my comfort zone, which I love. Like I always love a good challenge. But last month, one of our members, he sold his biggest contract yet. It was $1.5 million contract. and he attributed it all to the 1% club that he learned in it. So like that was really fulfilling. About a month ago, this guy came up to me in the gym. He's like, "Hey, I'm in the 1% club, and I just went on vacation for the first time and didn't have to be glued to my phone. I was able to spend more time with my family." It was
Awesome.
like, dang, dude, like that's the kind of stuff that keeps me fired up. And when I stay out of my comfort zone, like we've been religious about a podcast every single week, and you know how much energy and effort it takes to do that. And what's crazy about a podcast is they say like, hey, as long as you're consistent, like you'll have a big podcast and you'll win. But most of the people, I don't remember the stat, but it's above 95% that like podcasts fail, and it's just because people stop after month 3. So the fact that you've been doing it for over a year and a half, it's like you're winning. You're winning more, and it's just because you're willing to keep showing up.
It's really interesting. And right when I was starting the podcast, I heard a stat. It's like you're in the top 20% if you produce more than,
That's what there's yeah, there's
yeah,
something
more
crazy.
than one podcast. And it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And then to be in like the top is either like 5% or 1% is you need to produce more than 30 podcasts. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, let's get to the top then.
Yeah.
And there's so many beautiful things that come out of just sitting down and having an actual conversation with someone and getting to know who they are and why they are who they are.
Yeah.
And let's go to like marriage now. And how did you meet Alyssa? And what has she meant to your world?
Yeah. So in high school, there like some high schools have them, most of them, especially like on the West Coast. It's called seminary, which is like our version of church, and you don't get a credit for it. And so they mix it all together. So you have freshmen with seniors in this one class, and that's where I originally met my wife Alyssa. She was a freshman, I was a senior. And what's funny is I was class president, which I thought was like really cool at the time because I'm like the president at the top. But then I just found out they only give that to people so they show up to seminary. And so then I was like, dang, dude, they're just trying to hook me to get me here. But I remember she always tells a story like, man, that kid's cute, but he's got a really weird last name. Like, I don't want Bottom as my last name. And so, in high school, like 4 years is kind of a big gap. And so we didn't date or do anything. I just thought, oh, she's cute, but she's super young. And so we knew of each other. And then when I got home from my mission, just the typical like buddy was like, hey, you should meet Alyssa. And kind of the funny story about that is that I had like 15, 20 people over to my mom's house for like to watch the Suns game. And my buddy invited her over. And when she walked through the door, I was like, dang, this girl still looks like she's like 12. Like she's way too young. And I didn't talk to her for like 2 hours that night because I just kind of blew her off. But she hung around after the party and we hung out that night and we haven't left each other's side ever since. And it's just been like this cool like evolution that I didn't I didn't like vet her out the way that I would now with a wife or a spouse. And I've seen a lot of buddies have spouses that just didn't work for whatever reason. I'm sure it's mostly because of the guy's fault. And I've seen like the headache that that puts on, a business or a relationship. And luckily, like Liz and I have just connected perfectly. We've been married for almost 15 years and we've maybe been in like, let's call it less than 5 fights just to be safe. It just like doesn't happen. And what's cool is like she's just always been that rock and that supporting factor of like believing in me. And so again, that's one more person that believed in me to go accomplish my dreams. And so it's just been like this really special like relationship to have. And I feel really blessed because I didn't like vet her and she didn't vet me the way that we probably should have, but we've just been able to connect. So
Well, that's amazing. And yeah, we're in a world where every other marriage is getting a divorce.
yeah,
Um, let's actually go there. How is my parents were divorced. I know that you went
same.
through
Yeah.
seeing your parents go through a divorce. How do you feel like that has affected your marriage now?
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like I can't correlate like, oh, it's affected this. I've just tried to one thing that's worked for Liz and I is that like she kind of lets me run the business and I let her run the house. Like anytime the kids kind of ask for something, it's kind of a joke, like ask mom, like she's the boss here, and she's kind of giving me that at work. And it's just kind of worked. But one thing that I know that I don't want to have happen because of my parents being divorced is I don't want to go through a divorce. And so I'm always looking for ways to whether they're as small as like unload the dishwasher or, pick up after myself. Like what are the little things that don't create thorns in her side that she can still love me forever? And I think that's just been like a winning formula. And I attribute that a lot to Casey. Like this past year, I've been really intentional about like what are my most important hats that I wear. And then in my weekly planning, really identifying how can I get 1% better in that area. And so, I mean, it's little things, like I said, like the dishwasher or a foot rub or going on a walk with her or me planning date night. Like how many people put it on the wife to plan date night? And it's like, it's not the wife's responsibility. Like you can do that once in a while. And I went to her at the beginning of the year. I was like, hey, what are some of the things that I can do this year that mean a lot to you? And one of the things was give me flowers once a month. It's like, all right, cool. Like, let's make sure that happens. And so we've just always kind of been on the same page, and it's just worked.
Thing. Well, the message that I've been getting in like who you are that's really benefited your world is just showing up.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not like a show up and I'm perfect, but it's just no matter what's going on, you show up. And I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
And for you, what do you feel like is the legacy that you like? Let's say you sincerely pass away tomorrow. Like what would you hope that everyone got from knowing you?
Um, I think that people would say like I, Evan, my business partner, like he gives this analogy and it like it feeds my ego to hear it, but as I see, like he calls me the Kobe Bryant of small business. Like people don't like the building with Cameron, but they always love holding the trophy at the end because I just have this really high level of expectation of you because I see what's possible in you, and I'm going to make sure that like I help you show up and become that person so that we can hold the trophy at the end. And so, there's this term that we coined in all of our companies that is premium. I think a lot of people would explain that at my funerals, like he is premium. He if he's gonna do it, he's gonna do it right, and if he commits to it, like he will hold, like he'll keep his word. And I learned that from the divorce. I talk a little bit about my parents' divorce, and one of the things that I learned from an early age is like the power of keeping your commitment. And so when my parents got divorced, I felt like I wasn't going to see my dad again. I didn't know what that meant. I was a couple of years old. And to me, divorce was like, hey, you no longer have a dad. But I remember my dad like getting down on his knee and letting me know, like, hey, our night is Tuesday and I get to be with you every other weekend. And at 5 o'clock, I'll pick you up and I'll never be late. And for 14 years when my dad like picked me up, like he was never late. And as kids, we remember that one time that they're late, right?
Yeah.
I never have one of those stories. 4:55, 4:57, 4:50. Like he was coming around the corner and he was picking me up. And I just, that meant so much to me that I was like, man, the power of commitment in your word is worth more than anything in the whole world. And so to this day, like if I know that if my dad says I'll be there, there's no doubt in my mind I will put $10 million on it that he'll show up before he says he's going to say it. Like I'll bet any amount of money you want because I know I'm winning. And that's over, I'm 37 now, of 37 years of conditioning of, hey, like he does what he says. And so when you adopt that level of commitment as a person, as an employee, as a business partner, as a spouse, like there's something special there. And so you got to be careful of the commitments that you make and you got to think through them. But once you do, it's like make sure you keep your word. So
I love that. Yeah, and that's like that one time that they didn't show up. I feel like the trust building is so important and it's a long-term game. And a lot of people lose that trust in one hard moment. And so the power to stay committed to one, your commitments, and to your word, it's like it it's it's a real art. Like it's and level of discipline that it takes is not some like simple easy thing.
yeah,
And it sounds like that's been instilled in you where you really do show up and you've stayed disciplined with your morning routines and the weekly planning. And also same with me, like weekly planning since my mission has probably been the most pivotal thing that I've done, and I do it pretty hardcore every week, and I haven't found anything that's changed my life trajectory more
Yeah.
than being super intentional with what I want with my life. And I think we're both people of design. You care about it a ton.
Yeah.
And what's like got you excited right now in what you have going with everything?
Yeah, so I have 4 pillars right now. Like it's basically, my family number 1, Hype Farm, which is a consulting company number 2, and then Coconut is my business. Like it's a carpet cleaning business which we can get into, and then my family office, like it's managing all my finances. And so that's like if something doesn't fit in those 4 buckets this year, it's kind of put on the back burner.
Mm.
And what I'm excited about is all the things that we're doing in the 1% club. Like I truly feel like we're changing lives there and helping people for the better. And I love growing. Like I'm able to put, like I just bought an office building down in Arizona for my Height Farm employees. And it's like I'm starting to build again. I'm kind of getting back in the game. And I told my wife I was going to like take a couple years off, and she's like, you haven't stopped working. Like you never stopped working. And so I'm like, it's just in me, and that's where I'm the happiest. And so like we're growing that. And then Coconut is a franchise model. So Arizona is our home base, and it's going great. And we decided to franchise about 4 years ago.
Mm.
We sold 4 franchises in like 1 year period, and then we kind of pumped the brakes because we wanted to learn like, hey, because in franchising you can get in trouble really fast, and so we wanted to be like, okay, like what do we need to improve on? What do we need to do better? How like what's the kind of gotcha moments? And we went through that for 4 years, and I'm sure there's tons of things that we don't know still, but we feel like we're at a good pace to start selling them like crazy. So now we're at 9 different franchises, and the goal is to get it to 80 locations in the next 5 years and have each market do $2 to $3 million in revenue. And that's very obtainable for like all the systems and the processes and the marketing tools that we've put into place.
Let's
And so
go.
like, hey, over the next 5 years, like we should be doing $250 million at Coconut. Hype Farm will be at 1,000 members. And then the end goal with those companies at Hype Farm is that for the people that want to sell, we'll go and integrate with them, roll them up and sell them off. And that'll change people's lives too. Like if we can go help double their valuation, their business just because they're together, like it's going to be a lot of work, but I know the playbook. I just went through it. And again, we'll have to have the right people on the team, and we'll have to go through a lot of lessons, but like that's what excites me a lot. And then, my kids are 12 and 9. We're starting to, like my little boy, we just started racing, and like we're having a great time doing that. My little girl, we were at ballroom on last Friday, and she's the only person that can get me onto the dance floor, and she pushes me. And so it's like we're just like life feels too perfect right now,
Mm.
and it's a cool moment. Like I'm waiting for that thing to happen, but even if it does, it's like everything works out. I'm good.
Yeah, it does sound like you have a ton of good things going for you, and like going through that building stage again. It's got to be fun to be back in that, but also the whole realization of how much work that takes
Yeah,
is it's awesome. You started talking about your family office as well.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that, like how you're building it, and that's something of interest.
It's funny. Like last year, I averaged 14% on my money, which is really great. But I didn't put like much energy into it. Like all my energy was put into High Farm, and I'm like, man, if I could get a little bit more intentional with like what I already have. But that's kind of I'm just your typical serial entrepreneur, and so like a big focus is trying to be more intentional with my investments and where to put them, and so again, surround myself with the right people. And so like, yeah, I'm trying to find the right CFOs, I'm trying to find the right controllers, I'm trying to find the right guys to help vet deals. And it's just it's just fun, like meeting new people and again networking. And I'm good. Tomorrow there's a golf tournament with this company that has been like really instrumental in helping me kind of plan that all out. Casey's been a huge mentor of mine of
Mm.
how to be a good stewardship of your money and how to report on it. And so It's fun, like, but it's really like, I feel really dumb when it comes to that because it's not my world. Like, it's kind of been overwhelming, like, big time. And so it's pushed me out of my comfort zone. You work your whole life to try and make all this money, and then it happens, and there's this huge responsibility of not losing it. Because how many times do you hear about these people that make all this money and then lose it? I don't want to be one of those guys, you know?
Definitely. Have you thought much if you want to give that to your kids, or do you have your plan around that?
Yeah, so yeah, that's funny. We just signed on all of our, like, trust stuff and whatnot, and we haven't like curated exactly like how it'll happen or what, but I'm gonna give my kids opportunities like my dad did, but it's got to be like dripped out in the right time in the right way, and I don't know what that looks like right now.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate. Like, my dad was successful, and but like, he wasn't successful until my junior year of high school. And I remember going over to his house, and the only food that he had was like bread and eggs, and like that, like, literally didn't have any money. And then all of a sudden, like, he started making a ton of money. But when I got home from my mission, he was in this position to write a check for 75 grand, but I also gave him 5% of Green Mango. And we ended up taking 250 over the next 2 years, but he also owned 20% of Green Mango. And so, like, it hurt, but he was in that position to do it. And I hope I can be in that position for my kids one day, and that's the goal. And but I don't- there's a lot of like um there's a lot of realness when it comes to like ruining my kids. And there's a lot of luxuries in life that we have now that you just, I don't know, that I'm trying to learn from people that are in that position, and learn again. Like, I'm a great student of success, and so I surround myself, and anytime I'm with someone that has a lot of money and kids, like, I'm asking them those questions. How did you set it up? What did you do? And like, what does that look like on a daily basis, from chores, or talking them about money. One of the things that I've done with my kids is, and it's been really cool with my son, like, he knew every single number about Green Mango because he was interested, and I didn't want to hide that from him.
Mm,
But I also wanted him to grow up believing that it wasn't a big deal to make $1 million. It wasn't a big deal to make 10 million bucks. And because it's so normal for him, like, I think his belief factor is going to be through the ceiling. And
absolutely.
so, when his buddy's like, dude, I don't know how we're going to make 100 grand a year. It's like, it's simple. This is what we're gonna do. That's my goal for Banks, and
Mm,
so, and my little girl. But, like, I was very transparent in everything that I do, as far as like money goes. And some people don't talk about money, and I've made the decision to talk about money because they're curious, but it's mainly because I want to shorten that belief system.
yeah. Well, being on the side of your kids, my dad did great in entrepreneurship, and it built this unreal level of there's no ceiling
Cool.
that I've heard from so many of my friends, like, and I can just feel their ceiling,
Yeah,
and it's given me, he has instilled this belief in me that, it's all possible.
I love that.
It's all possible, and anyone can do it if they put in the proper sacrifice. And there's some intelligence and there's some luck along with all of it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And I think you really are building and, like, already prepared to leave an unreal legacy. And so it's an honor to be able to have a
Oh, thanks,
conversation with
man.
you. And I can tell you're just a pure guy trying to, continue your growth in
Yeah,
a time where most people, drop off the planet for 5 years until they get bored. But I feel like
right.
you're on it
Yeah,
and growing and contributing. And so nothing but I applaud you for that.
thanks,
And
man.
if there's one message that you could scream from the mountaintops to our listeners, to everyone, what would you want to tell them?
um if we're talking about business, like, when you join the 1% club, I send you this little package that has some cool stuff in it. But one of them is this bracelet, and it talks about being intentional, disciplined, and consistent. And I feel like that's the recipe for success. And whether that's business, family, out in your personal goals, um, be intentional, disciplined, and consistent, and you'll be amazed where you can go. And that's kind of been my formula for success. Is that, like, I knew where I wanted to go, and I was just intentional. And when you start to break down like what it takes to get $10 million, 20 million, or a million, or be a great dad or be a great husband. Like, it's nothing too crazy. Like, it's very obtainable in a bite-sized day, every single day of what you need to do.
Mm. I love that. Intentional, disciplined, and consistent.
Yep.
And honestly, I think that's literally been the theme of
That's my life.
of this podcast, as well
Yeah.
as your journey. And I feel like you've done it really well in each of the pillars, which
Yeah.
most highly successful people, go really high in one area and they let all the other priorities kind of go down the drain. And that's something. When I heard about your story, I was like, okay, this is our type of guy that we got to
Yeah.
bring on, because you've found a way to focus and put that all together.
Well, yeah, because if and that's what I was able to learn with my coach, is that if you tie success to money, like, you'll never be happy.
Mm.
And so it's a balance will, and it's not like you don't want to be tens in some areas and two in others. Like, it's better to be a four in all categories of your life. And that's how you obtain true happiness. And that's why when I sold, it wasn't like this crazy, like, I feel the same.
Mm.
Right. And it's just been fun because I didn't have this like high or low or depressive state, because I understood what made me happy. I had a good balance with family, I had a good balance with money, with God, with my spouse, with hobbies. And so it's just stayed like consistent. And that's how I knew, like, I have to keep building something, because I've been in stages where, that's why I started 5 companies. I started making $1 million. I started to delegate, and like, I was in a depressed state because I wasn't building. I was no longer working 12, 13, 14-hour days. And then it was like, I need to go build. And so when I sold, I knew automatically, like, I need to be up to something, and that's why I can't sit around.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's someone with a growth mindset where you'll always be growing and contributing,
Yeah.
which that's what the world needs. And that's why you've obviously been given a lot of talents, and you are producing more and more talents as you've grown. Last thing I want to ask is, where can everyone find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram's the best place. So it's C Bawden, Bawden. And we have all the links on there for the 1% Club. It's hypefarm.com. And we do a podcast as well for business owners. It's called the Premium Mindset.
Premium
Yeah,
mindset.
that's the best place. We're obviously on LinkedIn and everything else, but C Bawden is my Instagram.
C Bawden. And well, it's been an honor to have
Yeah, man,
you.
thanks.
And we'll put those links in so that people can find you easier. But you're the man. Thanks for coming
Yeah,
in.
nice to meet you,
I mean,
man.
I know you've had a full day,
Yeah,
and
it's good.
I hope your travel back safely. And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.